If there was one political commentator that matched my views, values, and beliefs almost 100%, it would be Candace Owens. I have tons of respect and support for her since she was the person who red-pilled me a little over a year ago. And on a human-to-human level, I just fuck with her because she's a loyalist. Look back a year ago when Ye was talking his shit and everyone on both sides, even her fucking coworkers, ran the "he's unwell and mentally ill" narrative. But out of respect for him and their relationship, she didn't talk about it, and she made it clear why in one of her videos.
The subject that a lot of us have been avoiding is regarding Kanye West. And when I say a lot of us, I mean especially me. Ye is my friend. I have been very, very clear about that. Ye is still my friend, and I don't really like to talk about things and people that are personal to me.
She's also not afraid to say what she wants, so she won't fall into that trap of giving her audience what they want to hear from her. And I say that because she quite literally criticized the person that you're not supposed to criticize in the Republican Party, Trump. And she did it pretty harshly.
The DeSantis team would say, you know, we just had polling come out that shows we closed the gap by 9 points since we announced in Iowa. Still, Trump's hugely ahead, but they say they're closing the gap. That's their argument.
Hugely.
Hugely. Look, if you look at the polling now, it was Trump 34 in Iowa. It's now Trump 25.
Still a big lead?
Double digits.
Still a very big lead. Kaylee, thank you so much.
Does that sound to you like somebody who's throwing Trump under the bus by any means? She's basically telling you what DeSantis' team is saying, and she's telling you what Trump's team is saying, what Trump supporters would say, which is we're still up by 25 points, doesn't really matter. And he got upset with this and he attacked her personally. And I think this is just so unbecoming of him. I can't even tell you how grossed out I am by this.
She also shares my America First beliefs, talking about how stupid we are for sending nonstop aid to Ukraine. But she also stood against the war in Israel, which, if you're unaware, in politics, that's a complete no-go. No one is allowed to say that, not even Trump. The only person who has come close to that is Vivek Ramaswamy, and now he's got Hannity attacking him because of it. But I made a whole video talking about this, so if you didn't see it, a little summary is that I talked about Candace degrading the former vice president for taking this time of chaos to campaign. And then she continued talking America First, saying shit that I agree with. But because of her America First coverage, Ben Shapiro decided to attack her, which is what kicked off this entire situation. On November 14th, a clip surfaced of Little Ben at some event, probably about Israel, responding to a question about Candace Owens, saying that her behavior is disgraceful.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt, I think it's been absolutely disgraceful. She still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Then later that night, Candace posted this cryptic tweet of a scripture reading, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manners of evil against you falsely for my sake." Then she continues saying, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Then posts under that saying, "Christ is king." But hold on, her night's not over. She then announces that she will be on Tucker Carlson's Twitter show the next day. And this got me thinking, like, is she about to announce her departure from the Daily Wire and her going solo or some shit like that? I think that'd be pretty cool, having a completely free speech area like Twitter or X. Obviously, the Daily Wire says they're free speech, has their hosts say whatever they want, but a part of me feels like that's not 100% true. Now, I'm not too sure if this interview with Tucker was going to happen already, or if it was just because of this drama with Ben. And as a little side note, Little Ben also hates Tucker Carlson, and that's because Tucker, like Candace Owens, isn't foaming at the mouth, wanting to protect Israel at all costs. So that could be another reason why on November 15th, Little Ben replied and took a shot at Candace, saying, "Candace, if you feel that making money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit." Yeah, and this leads to Candace swinging back saying, You are utterly out of line for suggesting that I cannot quote biblical scripture. The Bible is not about you. I think this is a bit of a meh response, and I'll explain why in a minute. But she then comments under Ben shit, saying, you have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we all have had to sit back and allow it, and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it. Now, I love the first part of this tweet because it's all true. I said this in my America First video. He's acting like a little kid. Like Buddy did a whole video titled, I am a Jew, to send this powerful message against this fictional crisis of anti-Semitism. But the second half of this tweet and the first half of the first tweet are bullshit, because she does this gig of, you put yourself into the Bible scripture I posted, how dare you? And it's like, we all know it was targeted. We got the message. I think it's silly. I think it'd be way cooler if she just straight up said like, yeah, that was about you. What about it? You know? Instead of this dumb game of, oh, that was about you? No, it wasn't. No one thought it was about you. What are you talking about? And she's done this acting dumb game before too. She did it with Crowder when he announced his divorce and said Candace threatened to expose it months before, which it did seem like she did threaten, but she went about it saying he was acting.
So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Stephen has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their life. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. You know, maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances. So much that I want to say here. First and foremost, if you're a person that watches his show, how do you not see that he is so obviously acting and that he is a very bad actor? Do you feel bad for him when he says that? When he says, if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, well, if you are familiar with the idea of extortion, you should realize that that video that he just showed of me wasn't that.
Then the Tucker interview drops, and first off, I've been trying to figure out when this thing was recorded. It was definitely recorded on the 15th, but I think it was before Little Ben's response. But in the interview, when the topic is brought up, Candace talked about it like, oh, all of the Daily Wire members have disagreements, and if I was in Ben's place, I'd be embarrassed. And I was just like, oh man, Candace is so good at this shit. She's just this petty Christian mom who's black on top of that. So it's like Ben was just fucked from the beginning. But I also grew curious about her statement about the other hosts. Were their takes as radical as Candace's? Did they make sure to condemn Hamas? Well, I took a look at all the important hosts and their coverage. I first watched Knowles, and he took this take of pro-Palestine. He's using the same arguments that the radical left uses, so that makes it something to worry about, which I guess is true, but that's also just how politics works. Plus, it's not a fair excuse for us switching to code red and sending aid as quickly as possible. Walsh took a similar route when he talked about the pro-Palestine rhetoric showcased in one of their rallies.
Don't let them get it twisted. This is not complicated. When you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, you see Palestinian flags. When you go to a white supremacy rally, you see Israeli flags. This is not complicated. When Zionists march down the street, they say death to Arabs. When we march down the street, we say free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
I don't disagree with him on those clips. I mean, it would be pretty hard not to. This motherfucker started talking about Israel flags at white supremacist rallies. So I think it's pretty clear that whatever the rally was, it was just retarded. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, perhaps the wisest of them all. What stance has he taken on this complex issue? Ooh, yikes. So the verdict is in, and the verdict says that Candace is indeed the most radical. Sure, the others have some anti-war talks, but in today's world, it's America First that is radical. But back onto the interview with Tucker. I think Candace also threw in this little diss at Ben's mom/wife.
It's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time, is what you're saying?
He has converted his opinions. He's accepted responsibility. He said, I was wrong about the vaccine.
Oh, good.
He is, obviously pro-pharma. His mom's a doctor. And I say to people, I'm very aware of my perspectives on Big Pharma.
It's either she doesn't care enough about him to know what his wife does, or that she's treating him like a little baby, saying his wife is like his mom. Either one is pretty fucked and disrespectful. Or, hey, she just doesn't know, which is another level of disrespect. When it comes to her response to the war, I obviously agree, especially when she talks about the level of emotion the arguments have gotten to, or when she even attacks Nikki Haley for her insane response to the war. Overall, the movie was pretty good, pretty interesting, but it wasn't like this must-watch movie that everyone had to see. Currently, at the time of recording, it's sitting at 14 million views, which, hey, seems like a lot of people enjoyed it. After the interview dropped, Candace did a little press run while Tucker received a lot of praises because of the rumors around him being Trump's VP, which is something I want to talk about in another video. There also hasn't been a word from Shapiro since, but the media from all sides have had a field day on this entire situation. And unsurprisingly, mainstream media won't touch this with a 10-foot pole because anything anti-Zionism is too radioactive for them. But the podcaster shows on YouTube who represent the left actually agree with Candace, but they put this she's anti-Semitic tent to it. Secular Talk focused on Ben by attacking him and Rubin about their pro-Israel stances, but he did make sure to throw some shots at Candace so it doesn't look like he's agreeing with her as much as he really is. One of the shots was Kyle bringing up Candace defending Kanye West last year and that it could be a factor for why she's anti-Israel. I explained it earlier. Candace just didn't want to fuck up her relationship with Ye, and she's a realist because of that. And I know there's this theory of Candace egging on Ye so he could buy her husband's social media app, Parler, but I guarantee you, Ye approached her about it. And I say that because if you just see how he works, he gets inspired by things and pursues them very quickly. And I even believe he talked about it in one of his interviews, saying that the reason he wanted to buy Parler was because of his suspension on Twitter. Then at the Majority Report, they're apparently hosting the Battle of the Fascists, focusing on Candace Owens, saying that she's trying to take the throne because she has the better chance of connecting to younger conservatives than the Matt Walshes and the Shapiros. I actually agree with him here, but the reasoning to reach that conclusion is just completely wrong. I think the only reason for young conservatives going to the Daily Wire is to hear transphobia, and that Candace is the only one to give them the anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-all-immigrants takes. First off, I don't think people give a single shit about transgenders as much as they did. Like, once Trump's indictment struck, it went all eyes on him. Secondly, the anti-Jew, anti-immigrant claim is bullshit. What young conservatives actually care about is America First, which is what Candace Owens is representing. And all the lefties can calm down. They made sure to cover the anti-Semitism.
She's basically pissed that she wasn't defended and her Jewish colleagues gave her the side-eye during like the Kyrie Irving documentary, Kanye West, Jewish doctor, and Hitler should keep it in Germany controversies.
The Young Turks also had a pretty weird take on it. Some sidecast guy, Wozni, didn't even go after Candace. He just dismissed her America First stance and talked about how there's no consistency on the right and made an example out of the right-wingers who are against the FBI and compared it to the people who wanted to defund the police. Just to get rid of this stupid argument, there's a huge difference between the feds and the cops, and the motivations behind wanting them in a weaker or non-existing state. Now, I am aware that when they say defund the police, some actually mean they just want the funding to be more secure and watched, which I agree with. So I mostly chalk it up to the retarded messaging and far leftists who actually want the force to be abolished. Now, the motivation behind these stances are completely different. The Fund the Police believes that the force is systemically out to get minorities by abusing their power. They use instances of dirty cops abusing power to push that message, but a quick Google search and a bit of common knowledge will lead you to the conclusion that this claim is false. Compare those instances to the feds, who have the darkest history, literally murdering citizens while conducting Operation COINTELPRO, where they forged documents, placed false reports in the media, and wrongful imprisonment. Sounds familiar, right? Forged documents, placed false reports in the media, wrongful imprisonment. Yeah, so that's one of the many differences, the biggest difference being one of them is actually happening, while the other is more of a fairy tale. Then the right is more apologetic to Ben. Megyn Kelly and Dave Rubin both have corrected Candace on this whole war. They were both clearly against Candace, saying, oh, of course, Ben is emotional. He has his people there. He has a house there, this, that. And that's nice and all, but you're in America. your interest should 100% be to America. Then the anti-Semitism claims come up, and they're more subtle about it than the left, but it's clear what they're doing. Then as we go a little more right, the Valuetainment crew talks about it from a business view and how it's childish for Shapiro to make this a public feud. I do agree with this, but I do have a theory for why this became so public, and I'll talk about that in a bit. TBD also talked about how Ben is putting his beliefs over money, which at first thought I was like, yeah, I can agree to that. I can agree that he is taking his pro-Palestine beliefs over keeping a very important host. Seems like a pretty admirable thing to do. But then you actually think about it. Oh, Ben is taking his pro-Zionist beliefs, something that the mainstream media has to push, and he's choosing that over a host. Then we go further right, probably the furthest right we could possibly go, and we see someone very controversial, someone who Ye used to hang out with. And this person talks about why Candace showing that Shapiro isn't a part of the America First movement is a great thing. And I 100% agree. This war has shown the commentators' real beliefs when it comes to America and what their interests really are. People like Hannity, Shapiro, Speaker Johnson, Lindsey Graham, any motherfucker on the pro-Israel shit isn't a part of MAGA or America First. People like Trump, Ramaswamy, Laura Ingraham, Candace Owens, and the person I was just talking about are legit and real voices for America First. I'm a real voice for America First. But even though I believe Candace Owens is 100% legit, I have to say, the very interesting thing that happened once the interview dropped is that this whole beef, argument, drama, whatever, is gone. The last mention of this situation from what I've seen was a joke from Candace about what happened. So that left me thinking about this whole thing and led me to two theories on what this situation really was. The first theory is that Ben and Candace decided to handle this issue privately, which could be a reason for why none of the other hosts talked about it or even tweeted about what happened. The second theory is that this was a way of promotion for the Daily Wire and a possible debate between the two. Because I mean, straight up, I think these are the two most popular hosts there, besides fucking Brett Cooper. But I'm more on the side of theory one, and that's for multiple reasons. I've noticed that Ben's channel has taken some time to chill out and has started to talk about other things besides this war. He just made a video about South Park and Cardi B, which is a good thing because at one point, his channel for at least a week was literally just Israel and Palestine. But another reason is that theory 2 falls flat on its back, if you really think about it. The Daily Wire has shown that this is a quick and smart company. I mean, they launched a whole chocolate brand hours after hearing about Hershey going woke. Plus, as I just said, none of the other hosts talked about it, which is retarded if you were to market this shit. And for the final blow to that theory, Candace has now left for maternity leave, so she's not going to be talking politics for a while now. So I am left to believe that they solved this on their own, which could be for the better, because we already know who's real and who's not. Unfortunately for little Ben, he's still getting attacked, now by fucking Andrew Tate.
So Ben is a warmonger. Ben has been wrong on basically every single issue you can name. He was with you with the vaccine and every other war. Ben is always calling for other people's young men to go and die in some war. He seems to love it. I don't know if he has short man syndrome, but he's always behind his desk calling about how important it is that big, strong men like me go and die. And the reason he tweeted that and said that is because when Hamas and Israel, at the very early in the conflict, I think it was 3 days in, were discussing possible peace talks, he tweeted, no, absolutely not, fuck them, kill them all. And I said, Ben, as a man who's done his own fighting, because I've had a life of pain and violence, listen to me. Peace is always worth a conversation. What I said is that we should always be prepared to at least discuss peace.
I gotta be honest, that guy's kind of irrelevant right now, but hey, he's also right. And Candace is still taking heat for her real take. She got, I guess, denounced by some dude who helped build her career. Let's be honest. None of us give a fuck. But I also think there's still some bad blood at the Daily Wire because something that happened like less than 24 hours ago is that the Daily Wire announced this new trans sports comedy movie. And during the trailer, everyone had their cameos of, oh look, there's Matt Walsh, there's Ben Shapiro, there's Clavin, there's Knowles, there's Brett Cooper, there's everyone. Except you know who wasn't in that trailer. I'm just saying.